Ooh, wow.
It was loud, right?
That's quite loud, yes.
So I'll tell you why I wanted to do this. Because some days ago you told me that you were kind of tired of AI people telling you, this is how I think that DALL-E and all this AI stuff is going to impact your work. And I realized that you're fucking right. And I've been making this mistake. I guess probably all the AI community. I'm making the mistake of trying to explain people how AI is going to impact their job.
Yes.
Without really understanding their job.
Yeah, I have been mansplained my job a couple of times.
I think you've been text-plained. We should start also this word, probably.
Sure, yes. Also, just by people who don't have the same kind of job and who's very hyped about it, yes.
Yeah, that's me, my fault, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, well.
Sorry.
It's fine.
No, I mean, I want to have this conversation first, because first of all, I want to understand better. So it's kind of a selfish video.
Yeah.
But it's also because I think a lot of people would learn stuff from this.
Yeah.
So I think a good place to get started is from, what the hell do you do? Like, I know it, but not really. What's your job?
Yeah, I guess I should just maybe do a general introduction of myself, maybe. Because this also, the job I have now, it might not impact that, but also it's more, I guess I should introduce more of the types of job that I think AI-generated images will impact. And like that's also my future prospects. So yeah, my name is Anne. I'm your roommate. Yes, score. And right now I work in games where I do assets for games, and it's a 2D game that I do now. So that means basically what I actually do is I draw clothes all day for a game called Movie Star Planet. Yeah, so right now it doesn't affect me because as I know DALL-E and Midjourney and stuff now, it's not like, it's more for idea generation and stuff like this that it's useful. It's not for like super duper specific things where it's like, just draw this in this way, please. We've done this for a long time. Please just do this again, which is what I do at the moment.
So can you walk me through the process of, okay, I guess this game has characters.
Yeah.
These characters have clothes. Can you walk me through the process, the entire process from, hey, we're going to make a game, to this is the game and this is how characters look like and how their clothes look like?
Do you want to know about the game that, like the stuff that I do, or in theory, what like would make more sense to Midjourney and stuff?
No, I want to know like the entire art process of coming up with the style.
So when you want to start a new company and you're like starting a new IP,
I want to make the Gianluca Amaro video game where people need to do crazy shit and like play guitar and do AI stuff, I guess.
Sounds great. Hit me up.
I think you should do it.
Yeah, you should. Okay, so you would start, of course, like people get together, then have an idea. Usually they know each other, whatever. Then let's say they hire an artist. They hire a concept artist, or maybe they have a friend who does concept art, and they do a lot of development. And this is the part that will be the most impacted. I will get into that more specifically later, I guess.
What is concept art?
So concept art is basically just putting ideas down on paper. A lot of people feel like they have this idea that when you look at really cool stuff from like World of Warcraft or like, I don't know, LOL, whatever, they look at this kind of stuff that's splash art, that's finished illustrations, and they're like, whoa, the concept art for this game is great. That's not concept art, that's illustration. So concept art is usually really fast art that's done just to get an idea down. And the bigger the company, the more, like usually, the more detailed, the more like on style, they usually want it pretty fast. So usually most AAA studios the concept artists for that will usually use a lot of photo bashing, which means putting together a bunch of photos and stuff to make stuff that looks realistic, because that's what the games look like, right? So basically it's like, let's say, you want to do this and you want to make it like in like Unreal Engine, kind of super realistic. It's you basically battling monsters. Usually the concept artist would then take like pictures of, like take a bunch of pictures that they could find online, whatever, and then mash them together and make it look as much as they can like what they want the product to be. but then also because they have to come up with a bunch of ideas, and you, as let's say you're the creative director, you will tell them a bunch of different ideas that you have and like different visions, and they will try different things out. So they will typically make many different versions of the same thing just to try different styles, different kind of perspectives.
So if I understood correctly, it's like quick and fast just to understand the vibe of the game.
Yeah.
Basically. And that's a specific professional figure. So it's a job. There's somebody that does that. That's it.
Yes.
Okay.
So it depends, of course, on like
budget and how big the studio is.
Sure. But like the job, usually you would get hired, you would be a freelancer and you would get hired for specific projects. And usually it's very early on in the project. And then, of course, it depends. If the company has a lot of different small things going, then they could actually full-time hire you as a concept artist, and you would keep doing these kinds of things.
Okay.
But usually it's like a short hire. But you will be there to get like kind of the look down, and you are like the person who can come up with ideas fast, and that establishes the style, kind of the tone, the feel, the overall look of it. And you're also, that art is really important for getting funding, because when we're talking games, but I mean also movies, I think, yeah, it's a little different, but still in games, especially, you have to get funding. And you might not have much funding before. Actually, the concept art might be done before. So that's a way to get funding.
Ah, interesting.
So actually, it's really important, because the more finished it looks in like a quick time, then you can get it out to different kinds of sponsors and stuff and try to sell it to different publishers.
Interesting. So, okay, cool. I want to do the Gianluca Mauro game. I'm fighting against giant rock stars that are big monster zombie rock stars, okay? I get a concept artist, makes a bunch of sketches. I show them to a big VC. He gives me a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. Who do I hire now and to do what?
So, I mean, even before you get the money, you would probably have a team that was there. So you would probably get some programmers to start on like basic stuff. The concept artist would keep working. Like if, again, we're talking like this is a big IP. This is like the new Counter-Strike level stuff, right? So then the concept artists would probably be there for the next 2 years. Like this development would probably like be like, I don't know, 2 to 5 years is my guess.
Okay.
It should be said, I haven't worked on any of these like giant games, but this is like my understanding of it. So that it is a long hire. Then I guess you would start like, don't know how early on, I guess you would start hiring like sound people, definitely script writers, but these guys would probably be there already. So a lot of this is just like pre-production, like getting down the style, getting down like the ambience of the sound kind of thing that you want, getting down super basic game mechanics that you can like see make sense. And then at some point you would also get some 3D modelers who would start making all of these models. Maybe you want mocap, so then you would get some people who specialize in that kind of stuff, motion capture. So that's when people wear like the suit. It's the thing that Andy Serkis made very famous after The Lord of the Rings. And then you would also have animators pretty fast to do this kind of stuff, and people rigging. So like, and all of this is different people usually. Like when we're talking super big budget, also like when we're talking visual effects, it will be different people who specialize in this. And pretty much everyone else apart from, well, the animators are usually later in the process. So they tend to also be a short hire, depending on like if you want to release patches afterwards and like DLCs and whatever. But otherwise, the animators tend to be like later in the process, and the concept artists are early in the process.
Okay.
And the modelers will usually be there for just a while.
Okay, cool. Imagine then I don't have a lot of money instead. Yes. Who will I hire? How does this process change?
So we're talking indie company.
Indie, like I'm
So
broke.
we're like five people have a great idea. They start a studio based on a game chain game. Well, usually they would probably have one. Let's say they don't have a friend that's an artist. So they will probably hire someone to do pretty much all the art. Maybe they will have a concept artist, but usually that concept artist would then also be, just because the budget is small, the concept artist would have to do different kinds of things. So it's pretty often that like indie companies tend to go in like the 2D direction, in which case the concept artist can stay on for a longer period of time and do some of the stuff that I do, which is just draw the finished assets, which means you basically draw stuff that gets taken into the game as it is, or maybe stuff that just needs to be animated, like rigged and then animated by an animator. Sometimes, if it's really small scale and this person loves to do everything, it's the same person that does all the art, like all animation, whatever.
So from the concept to I'm actually going to draw the assets that are going to be used in the game,
yes,
to animations and to anything. Okay.
Yeah, and then also rigging first and then animation.
Cool. But so my understanding is that anyway, the process is kind of like quick and dirty to understand the vibe. Once I understand the vibe, then I either get funding, or if I don't get funding, whatever, it just gets started, I guess.
Yeah.
And then come up with some more clear, ideas, and then I need to actually develop, all the assets, all the different drawings, and all the different models, animations that are going to end up in the game.
Yes. But you can also see some of the stuff that, again, I'm focusing mainly on concept artists because that's what we will come back to in this. But also you can see many of the things that the concept artists do as blueprints for what gets created later.
Interesting.
So let's say, because concept artists work on Marvel films as well, right? And in the old days, it would be costume artists who drew the costumes. But now that it's like superhero costumes, I've found many times that I've seen that it's done by concept artists as well. So that means that the costumes are being designed and sewn, or not sewn, but designed by people who are specialized in concept design overall, and then being sewn by like costume designers.
Okay, so we understood a little bit the process. Now AI comes in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, I work in AI every single freaking day.
Yes.
And I did not see this coming.
No.
I was not expecting to have DALL-E working that well already. Like I was expecting this was going to be maybe 5-10 years down the line.
When did you hear about this? Because I heard about it not this Sunday, but last Sunday, which is like first week of July, probably.
No, earlier on.
Yeah.
It was, I don't remember where DALL-E was launched. But I figured out, so by the way, let's maybe talk about the AI around this. So this kind of technology, which is I write text and I get a picture, is not new. It's been around for years, but it worked like shit. And then DALL-E came out, I think a couple of years ago. It was DALL-E 1. And it was cool because you could say an avocado chair and it looked like an avocado chair, but it was very far away from being usable. Yeah. And then DALL-E 2 came out, which is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of months ago. Okay. And the interesting thing is that OpenAI, the company making DALL-E 2, they decided not to release it, if not to a small group of people, because they said, we got to figure out, biases. We want to make sure this thing cannot produce porn, let's say, and this kind of stuff. But then they released...
Why not?
I mean, they just want to, I guess, to make it, or, biases like... And in the beginning, they acknowledged that there were problems like if you said CEO, it will get a white guy. They were trying to get rid of these things. So it was basically like, hey, we're not going to give it out because it's too powerful. We need to also understand, and they said this, we need to understand how people want to use this. We don't know. Like, what the hell is this going to be useful for? We have no idea. Let's just let a few people test this out. But the problem is that they published a paper describing how they did that, thinking nobody's going to be able to replicate it.
Midjourney.
Not just Midjourney. Like, there are 4 models now.
Fuck.
There's DALL-E 2, Midjourney, IMAGEN, which is Google's one.
Oh no.
And Facebook made one as well.
Of course they did.
Last week.
Of course they did. And it's probably like, it's going to be in the metaverse and you can be like, make me a new costume.
So
sorry,
it's
Max
actually
Zuckerberg.
insane.
It's such a good impression, I know.
No, but it's actually really cool, I think, the Facebook one, because it works a little bit differently. So I'll tell you a little bit the difference between these 4 different models.
Yeah.
I'm going to take IMAGEN out, the Google one, because it's probably the one that less people have tried. Because basically they said, we know it's fucked up. We know it does, racial weird stuff. So let's put it out for 1 second.
Yeah.
So Midjourney, you write text. You get 4 images that are low resolution. Yeah. You pick one that you like, and you can either get 4 new variations based on that single style, or you can upscale it, which means just expand it and add more detail. Yeah. DALL-E 2 is you write text, you get 6 picks, I think. Yeah. You pick one, but the cool thing about DALL-E 2 is that it adds more interactivity. So you can select one part and say, instead of this white cat, I want to have a purple cat, or I want to have a dinosaur, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Facebook brings it to another level. So what you can do, yeah, exactly. What you can do with Facebook is that you can draw. You can start from a drawing, and you can say, "This is a cat."
Interesting.
But you just make the outline, and then you say, "This cat comes from space. It just took psychedelic mushrooms, and it can fly."
Oh my God.
And the AI is like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna start from this. I'm gonna add all the crazy shit that you asked me."
Oh, okay.
So it's like always giving more and more control to the people using this, basically. But it's not really an AI. I mean, the AI, of course, there's more AI, advancement, but it's mostly about, I think, a user experience kind of, like how does a human AI interaction kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is all the stuff that is available now.
Okay.
What I want to understand, because I've told everybody,
Yeah.
I'm guilty of this, and I think every AI guy told everybody else,
Yes.
don't worry about it, because it's going to make your work faster. And that's what I thought as well. But we had conversations. We had that conversation in our kitchen just like an hour ago, where we wanted to commission you a painting for our kitchen, and we asked Midjourney to make one, and it's fucking great. And so we're like,
this week I have been replaced by Midjourney twice. Luca.
So tell me about the second one. The first one, sorry. The second one is me.
Yeah, the second one is you. So the first one is I was talking to one of my friends, and we've worked together before professionally, and I was always kind of hoping that maybe I could join his company at some point because we work well together, and he has like really nice ideas and stuff. And he was actually the one who introduced me to Midjourney and stuff. He was like, "Hey, have you seen this new AI image technology?" And I was like, "No, but I guess it's like that kind of funky, cute stuff that you can make that's just weird." And he showed me, and he was like, no, this is going to destroy your work. And I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, yeah, I mean, I don't think people will hire concept artists anymore. And it should be said, like, he is someone who knows about the artistic side of stuff. So I was like, oh no. And then he showed me a bunch of pictures and stuff. And I was like, I guess I can swear, since I've done it many times, I was like, shit, man. Whoa, this is bad. And then he actually told me that this new company that he was starting is not going to hire a concept artist, which is the job that I was kind of hoping that I might get, because, I mean, they can just use Midjourney for concept art. Because it's like, if you're in really early development of your game and you don't have any, like, even if you're just developing the story, usually you wouldn't necessarily, unless it's a situation like with me, for example, where I'm a friend, I'm already there. I can help them develop images even before you know what the story is about. But otherwise, you would just come up with the story first and then find someone later. But now it's like you can use that, like the images that AI creates as the basis for the whole like idea generation. And it takes no time. Like it's like done, then you have everything. Like you can just, like it takes no time for it to load. And you can do it so many times. Like Midjourney is limited, I think, to like how many prompts can you give a day? 30?
25 with a free plan, but I paid,
yeah.
I think I paid $14 and I have 200 a month. But then you can just pay more.
200 a month? You mean 200 a day?
I think it's a month.
Okay.
Anyway,
how does that?
You just pay more, and it's not that expensive, you know?
Yeah, and it's never going to be more expensive than hiring a person.
I think they have a plan called Relax, which it's kind of funny. And I think it's like, I don't remember exactly.
Slap in the face.
I'm sorry. I think we can just, try to find it. But I don't remember the price. But there is an unlimited picture thing. And the cost is going to be like less than $100 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, almost no matter what, it's going to be cheaper than a person.
Oh, yeah, of course. And much faster.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is an issue that has worried me a lot. Like, basically, that already now, I kind of in a week, like, I know we're joking about it, but it is kind of, I lost 2 jobs kind of already because of this. Like, because, I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you can make something that looks really nice and put it on your wall, and it costs maybe, let's say, 200 Danish kroner, which is like, I don't know what that is, dollars, 26 euros to print, then... like, why would you hire someone to paint it full scale for like, I don't know, what is that, like 100 euros? No, 1,000 euros, right? Like you would save so much money and if you like it, the same amount. So what people who don't know about the industry has been saying to me is, well, then you learn to work with the software. So basically, and that was what my friend told me as well. And it's just like, well, then you just learn to be the best, like go as fast as you can, just learn to be the best at this tool, write the best prompts, know as much as you can, and just be the best at that, and then fix it, and then you're set to go. You'll be super fast. This is true. Also, it sucks major balls. Like if that's what you want to do, sure. Like some of the concept artists that work in photo bashing already, sure, for them it's going to be okay. But still, the fun part about being a concept artist is that you have to think. There are so many parameters within art. Like there is composition, there is color, light, everything, like so many things. But if you just have like this thing do it for you and then just patch it up, there is no thought process in it. You take away all fun, all thinking, all idea generation. It's just patching up stuff. The image is there. You just have to make it look like not a bunch of creepy human parts. So basically it's like if you're a programmer, right? You find it fun to come up with solutions to a problem. That's what you enjoy doing. That's why you do it. Unless you want to earn a ton of money and whatever. But the fun of it is solving a problem, feeling smart, feeling like you have the solution. But let's say like you can just press a button and in like 7 seconds, like 90% of it is there. You just have to move around the paragraphs. That is basically what it is. So if you take you programming something for a game and you suddenly move it into HTML, basically it's not even HTML. It's one of those already made internet or like website things where you just move stuff around. That's the same thing. So it sucks. Like, sure, I can do it, but that's not fun. I'm just going to be like sadder than a small machine. So if that makes sense, That makes a lot of sense. So when you said the thing about the Facebook version, I was like, oh, thank God. That is so much nicer because then that means that I can at least still work with composition and whatever. Because composition in the beginning makes such a big difference in how you tell the story. And so that will give you a lot of room for having fun again. But like, even that is just gone in things like Midjourney or whatever as an artist.
Yeah, so I think you touched on two very important things. One is just the kind of, I don't want to say even money problem, is more the kind of the getting out of job thing. This is for sure going to impact you. I mean, I'm sorry about it, but like, it sounds like, I mean, it has already happened. Seriously, I seriously, just for the lols, like, just to have fun, I was like, let's see what happens if I write all the names of my friends and say to Midjourney, make me a watercolor painting of all my friends hanging out, having a good time in the kitchen, and I put their names, and I got a watercolor thing that is amazing. The thing that shocked me is that it was also pretty realistic based on the names that I gave it. Of course, it's a watercolor sketch, so it's not super specific, but there was somebody with a dark skin color, and one of the names that I gave was an Arabic name. Yeah. And it got that. And I was like, I just put some names of females and some names of boys, and it just it made sense. I was like, Jesus Christ, this thing works, and it's good. I love it, you know? Yeah. And you know what's also fun? And this is something we can talk about now, maybe. I wanted to talk about it in the end, but maybe let's talk about it now. It's weird, but I suck at drawing, okay? Like, I suck at creating anything that is not an AI course or playing guitar. Yeah. And even at that, I'm not the best. But, like, drawing and visual stuff, I suck. I felt with this Midjourney thing, even though I did nothing, I felt like I did something. Yeah.
It feels pretty baller.
It feels baller. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, that's the feeling that you had for the past life? Yeah. Like, you're able to create stuff?
When you say past, that is very true.
Like, sorry, but I meant like used to be. For the last 32 years? I'm like, how old?
Thank you for telling my age, but yes.
Yeah, we can censor that. We can put that the past years.
Sure.
can do it.
And then you like beep, and then you'll be like, it's 32, like blinking.
We can do that. We can do that. No, I mean, jokes aside, but like, there's one side of the story. So one side of the story is Anne and a bunch of artists, which is an insane minority in the world, can't have fun anymore. Let's put it that way. There's another side of the story, which is the other 99.9% of the world now has a tool. And this is something I haven't thought about. Like, when you were talking about this, I'm like, it's in a way it's becoming democratic, which is a plus.
Sure. Before you say that, I would just like to correct the thing that you say that I and a minority can't have fun. That is one thing, but it's also that we literally lose our jobs.
Yeah.
I have a master's degree in this that might not be relevant. And like, even if we don't lose, like everybody loses their jobs, it's going to be such a big problem that it's going to be fucking hard to get a job, because there's going to be so many people that want this job, but the job is 1 out of like 100. Like, there will be so few.
Maybe let's talk about this now.
Yeah.
I want to postpone the conversation about philosophy, because I think that's interesting. But this is probably the more kind of down to earth today problem is the money. Obviously, is the job stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So you see, if we go back to the beginning of this conversation to like how the process looks like, you see this taking away concept artist jobs, I guess, especially in small scale productions. Am I right?
Yeah, because that's where it's difficult to get funding. I think the big productions would probably use a mix, but they would still hire the big names in concept art, I think, because you can just get something super specific, which is still not completely possible. I'm sure it will be. Like as good as it is now, I feel like within the next 6 months you can get something. Right now it's mainly that faces are super creepy.
Midjourney is creepy. DALL-E is good.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Actually, so there's another thing that's interesting that I'm just going to throw out there, which is I feel like actually what might happen, and you will probably know about this and have like laugh about it, but I think that right now the amount of stuff that's being created just randomly by people using this AI is flooding the internet with stuff that it will use itself. So basically, at some point, since like the more people use it, in a way, like what it's drawing from is more and more itself, right? Isn't that going to, like, I don't know. I've just been thinking about it. Like, it's going to be, at some point, it's going to be drawing inspiration from itself.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more and more of a thing. I mean, of course, the level is going to go up, but if the level stays at the same, and let's say that a whole fuck ton of people create a whole fuck ton of art,
which will happen,
which is happening, then, like, that is going to be weird, and it's also going to water out the cool effect of the art, because it's going to get more and more like weird.
I read I read a super cool article called Vibe Shifts. It's called, I think, The Origins of Vibe Shifts. I'm going to put the link somewhere. Basically, it said that, Unsplash, I guess. So Unsplash is a website where you can get free professional grade pictures, like photographs. That just professional photographers put out there for free, I guess, to build a portfolio or something like that. I'm not sure about what. Anyway, it's out there. The internet looked like shit before Unsplash, because most people will use just stock images that were really bad.
Yeah.
And then Unsplash came out, and everybody started using these amazing pictures. So since everybody had this opportunity of using amazing pictures, then if you wanted to be cool, you had to do something that was not that available. And this something became like sketches and kind of 3D art and all that stuff. And that's where the web, because design today's the web, I will say probably, it takes a lot of space, at least.
Yeah.
At least in my life. A lot of people shift to that style because suddenly that was rare. So if you had amazing images, you look like everybody else. So now, the concept of vibe shifts, if you apply to DALL-E, now suddenly everybody can design whatever freaking art they want at zero marginal cost. So according to this theory, the top level stuff is going to move towards something that is not accessible, because you need to look different. If everybody has cool art and you want to look different from everybody, what is it going to be the next step? You have to differentiate yourself and just look different. And I don't know what that is. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm also
but does it make sense? Do you see where this is going?
100% makes sense. Like, everything fluctuates, but also how? Because like right now the AI generators can make everything. And that's the worrying part, right? Like you as an artist see it and you're like, cool, yeah, they can do photo bashing, copy stuff, whatever. And then like me as a 2D artist, I'm like, never a problem. And then I find out it can do very good like Miyazaki like
It's wild.
stuff. Like stuff that usually like has outline and whatever. Yep. Can do that and can do like old paintings, which what everybody's doing. Like, yeah.
You can do anything. Like I was just shocked. I just told it, paint this in the style of Caravaggio. And it made sense. I mean, it was not perfect, but it was a Caravaggio style kind of thing.
And if you had the same amount of time that Caravaggio spent on painting that painting,
yeah, I mean, obviously.
then it would be pretty damn good.
Let's talk about time, because I want to know your opinion on this. I watched a video some time ago. I'm going to find it and put it in the comments, I guess. It was a special effects studio. And what they did is they took all their, pro special effects guys, and they made a challenge. So these people had to do a rotoscoping scene. Rotoscoping is just cutting people of a frame, okay? Mm-hmm. So you have somebody running in a field, you want to cut that person out and make it run in somewhere else, okay? On the water, whatever. And so they took somebody who was doing it by hand in the good old way, frame by frame, and then applied all different techniques, and then somebody had AI. Yeah. And the guy with AI took 2 minutes. Yeah. And the guy that was doing other stuff, it was just
I have tried rotoscoping. It sucks, and it takes so long.
It's like 48 hours.
Yeah, and that's like a person who's pro.
That's the thing that makes me think. So that application was like, oh my God, it's going to take all the jobs of these people away. And instead it didn't. But that's kind of like a mechanic task. Do you see an argument for this is going to make your job so much faster that the outcome is going to be that there's going to be a lot of concept art being produced with you behind the scenes to working together with? Or it feels to me like you don't see this outcome at all. Like you just see it as, I fuck off, Midjourney takes my job, that's it. Do you see any way of collaborating?
I mean, that's the thing that my friend suggested, that it's just like you need to work with it, so you need to be the best at coming up with prompts and whatever, and then just patch it up. But so the short answer is no, I don't really, like I only see it taking away those jobs, really. I don't see it creating new jobs, because in most of these things, what it's going to impact is studios that don't have that much money, so they have to decide if they want to hire someone to do this or not. And obviously, if they don't have to now, then they won't. It's gonna really hurt the artists in the industry. I should also be fair. Like, I think it's going to be great for like small indie studios. It might also make some stuff seem possible because you can make it in Midjourney, but then you have to get 3D modelers who can do that, and like people who can make it look like that, and that is then the next problem because you can't afford it.
But also, spoiler, somebody's gonna build AI that turns that shit into 3D models.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's the next thing.
Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, that is happening for sure. So there is another thing I wanted to mention as well, which is, I think, apart from how sad I am that it is probably just going to destroy the best part of my job, basically, the other really big problem I have with this, and that I'm very curious to see how the world in general solves, is the fact that people are name dropping artists all the time. And I find that very problematic. So you can name drop. So it's like, sure, you used Caravaggio, right? Or Van Gogh or whatever. But the problem is that people are writing like ArtStation, which is a place where people, like really skilled artists, will upload their stuff. They write like ArtStation 8K, and then they write a bunch of names of like Simon Stalenhag, like, I don't know, all these kinds of really famous concept artists or like illustrators. And they just use their style, basically. Which is fine because there's no law against this, but is it fine? Like, so basically at some point, we will probably get to a point where some small studio basically makes something that looks exactly like something that could have been done by, I don't know, like there's an artist called Pete Moorbacher. And I think a lot of the very like celestial, super fancy stuff that's being done like with the sky and like planets and clouds and stuff and whatever, it looks a lot like his stuff because his strokes are already kind of like I don't know what you would call, like more grainy and more like textured than you would usually see. So it already looks like it could be compiled strokes. So I think a lot of the stuff that's already being done in Midjourney looks a lot like this guy's stuff. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do if
you're fucked.
an AI just takes your style? That's crazy.
But I mean, and also paradoxically, the more you're prolific, the more you're famous, and the more art you've made, the more data there is out there. So
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is
So then you have to not upload your art. That's horrible. Like, that's also the way we get, spoiler alert, exposure. Because since we don't get paid at anything else, it's all about being famous. But we can't get famous if we can't upload our stuff.
Damn, it's freaking complicated. Like, the more I talk to you, the more I realize that there's a trillion different problems that I haven't thought about.
I mean, from my perspective, it's only bad. But I mean, I understand how it's great for people. I think, like this, the last thing I mentioned is an ethical problem. The other stuff is not really like, this is something you can't really control. But this is kind of an ethical problem where I'm like, that sounds like it's going to be some copyright infringement stuff happening very fast. But we still haven't defined that because it's not like, how do you do that? It's pixels, right? But I don't think you should be able to mention like the names of active artists. Like that should be protected somehow. But I don't know, man. Like, but that is, I think, a big problem.
I think nobody knows. That's the whole point. But
like all the new tech startups, like all the disruption stuff that happens, like there is no law against it.
I mean, there's a book which I don't have here. It's a book called Chaos Monkeys, and it says the AI people, just tech people in general, are chaos monkeys. So a chaos monkey is a thought experiment that Netflix did. It's basically like it said, imagine you release a bunch of monkeys in your server room and they start unplugging stuff. Is your infrastructure going to be resilient? Is it going to be able to keep up with monkeys unplugging random shit? And so this book says that tech is the chaos monkeys of society. Like, let's see what happens if I allow anybody to rent a room in their place. Oh, shit, nobody in Barcelona can afford to buy an apartment anymore.
Yeah,
sorry about
sounds
that.
like a you problem, not a me problem.
Like, I didn't foresee that, you know. And this feels kind of the same. Like, OpenAI be like, I'm going to just release this. I don't know how this is going to impact the world. They actually said that. Let's just test it out. In the meantime, this is how we did it. And then a bunch of other people release it. And then suddenly you can release it as the fourth guy who released it. So it's not your fault. You were trying to be chill. And then, everybody else, oh, shit, there's no concept art anymore. Oh, shit, all the famous artists are being copied. Yeah. Oh, shit, etc., etc., etc. What are you going to do now?
Me? Actually, I have already been looking at different stuff to do. Like I've been talking to some artist friends. It depends on who I talk to about like how freaked out they are. One of my friends is an illustrator and she does like children's books by hand. She is also freaked out about this. Like I already saw a Kickstarter for a book that was completely illustrated just by Midjourney. So she is also super fucked and she is getting paid like poorly already. And this is kind of the thing that has made me go like, okay, I'm going to go in a different direction. I think I'm going to start, I want to do producing now. Like I'm literally, I have been all weekend, I've been looking at different types of degrees I could get, how I could do this. I have a master's degree in this shit. I love it, but I'm also like, already now, the whole industry, like for me, like the last years, is just been going downwards in terms of pay. We're always the lowest, like nobody really appreciates what we do. It's always like, the programmers are nice, right? And then you have the artist, it's great. And then they talk about the programmers again, kind of from our perspective. It's always like, these guys make things move. And the animators are like, excuse me, it's actually okay. And like so many things, I'm just like, you know what? No, okay. I mean, if this is happening and it's taking that kind of option away, I think I'm gonna try to look for something else. So it means that I'm gonna try to see if I can do something else. I'm looking at going abroad, doing a degree, seeing if I can do something in my spare time, maybe anything really. But it sucks because now I have a master's degree, which means I can't study anything else. I can technically, but I will get like if I try to apply for a new bachelor degree or whatever, I will get in the back of the line to get accepted. So everybody else will get in first. And if there is still space, then I can get in.
That's how the Danish system works.
Yeah. Which is fine. Like, it's super fair. I don't dispute it. It's just, well, maybe my degree now was not great. You see?
So you're actually, wow, it's crazy actually. Also hearing about your friends, like, it sounds like artists are quitting their job because they are 100% sure that they're going to be replaced now anyway.
I'm sure it's happening. Like, I'm not quitting my job because my job now is not being like impacted directly, but I'm quitting my career is what I'm saying. So I'm not quitting my job, I'm quitting my career, which I think is worse, you know? So if it's kind of like, yeah, we found out that machines are, surprise, and look at better at teaching AI to people. So actually, I mean, I made a surprise. Actually, I brought this AI that's really good at teaching about AI. So yeah. So you should do something else, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, it's sad.
It's kind of sad, but also like I am kind of excited about doing something new. But yeah, man, it's not great. I'm also worried that this will make some of the people who kind of are annoyed that they have to pay artists just go like, serves them right, because they are the ones always standing in the way of like getting the project working. They never understand if we don't have a budget, and like, why are they demanding money? And I can only say, I'm sorry. I need to pay bills. But yeah, that's how it is.
Doesn't.
It really doesn't. Maybe that's the solution. AI needs to pay my bills.
There's people talking about this. There's people talking about a robot tax, which it's mostly for automation and this kind of things. But I guess this could get into the same thing, which is basically like, hey, you're using automation, tax.
That, but also I feel like it probably uses a lot of power to generate this kind of stuff, right?
Yes, it does.
So like environmental tax, maybe.
I mean, you eat food.
That's just what? Food, schmood,
you shower.
I don't travel. That would be crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, also people are working on making this stuff more efficient.
Fun fact about artists is that we don't eat anything. And
really?
Yeah.
So then you don't need a salary?
Only to pay my rent, which is good for the environment, obviously, right? So
yeah, it doesn't pay rent.
We also, like, this is imaginary clothing. I draw it directly on your screens, guys. So
really good artist.
Yeah, for him, it's very interesting.
For hire.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this was super interesting. It's kind of crazy because I feel like I commented on Midjourney, I commented on DALL-E with a very like, wow, amazing, like, look at all these possibilities. There's some things that really excite me. Like, I'm excited about the idea that a 5-year-old can now make their own animation movie, you know, just by being like, hey, I want to have Spider-Man, but pink, and now I wanted to do, you know, it is exciting, right?
In a sense, but it also takes the creativity out of, like, what we see right now is not people's creativity, it's the randomness, the factor of random. So when you make something and you're like, whoa, what? Like when you write down God or whatever and you get something that's crazy, that's not you being, like, thinking up this. It's actually not you doing any of this stuff. It's not a human being creative. It's the computer being creative for you. It's because it's random. It's not thought out. And that's the thing, right? So all the amazing stuff that you love when kids do it, that's not, like, that's because kids are random, because kids think differently. But if you got a kid to write stuff in Midjourney, I'm sure that it wouldn't be weirder than what you would write. It all depends on the program. It's not about who writes what.
I mean, there are some prompts that are pretty freaking creative, but like, I see how you're just like, it's
But I mean, you can also just get a professional concept artist. There are people who do this, who asks like a kid to tell them what to draw and then draw it in a certain style. I would argue that's much more, like, that's when you have the what mindfuck, because kids have great ideas. I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, it's a computer being creative for you because it's random.
You know what? It's sad. I'm actually, you gave me this very deep thought. I had a dream some days ago. So my grandma passed away a year ago, and I had this dream where I was talking to her, and she was telling me I was like, Grandma, but you're alive. And she's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, wait, like what? Like you're here? And she was like, no, you're able to talk to me. You're able to interact with who I was, but I am not alive in the sense that I'm not growing, I'm not evolving, I'm not doing new experiences. I'm just something you can interact with, which is pretty fucking crazy. But it made me thought about if I had to train an AI to replicate exactly what my grandma has, if I take all my WhatsApp conversations with her. She used WhatsApp. She had an insane emoji game. And I trained an AI on this. The AI will be able, let's suppose that it's able to perfectly replicate her answers. I will be able to talk to my grandma, but I will be able to talk to a picture of my grandma at that point in time. Okay, this is kind of deep. I wasn't considering, to say this here. But like, if actually you quit your job, you quit your career, as you said, and you stop producing this, and so does every other artist in the world, and everybody starts using this AI thing anymore, that means that all the art that is going to be produced from now on, it's based on a timestamp, a picture of all the world's creativity from the beginning of time until June, July, whatever, 2022. Yes. And that is about it. We're not going to evolve anymore. We're just going to be piggybacking on what we've done.
That is also what I meant when I was talking about how it's going to be replicating itself. Like when I said that's also what I mean, because then it's going to be more like the sheer volume of that is going to be so much more, because it's so fast to do and so many people doing it, is going to be so much more than what we have already. So at some point there's going to be more Mid-Journey art than there was art to take from before on the internet. And then it will just be replicating itself. So that means then it will just be that. I mean, obviously all artists will keep drawing and painting, because we love to do it, but we just will have to get day jobs and work with something else, probably.
Unless...
Oh, are you going to get me to paint this wall? It is very white. Observe.
We can make a giant... No, there was another book that I was trying to find, but it's not here. What are my books? There's this book called Fully Automated Luxury Communism.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm listening. I'm Danish, don't mind.
Communism, but also luxury. I mean, the whole book is about the fact that if kind of machines are able to fulfill all of our needs because we automated the shit out of our lives, then our society will be a communistic society, but it will be a luxury communistic society. Suddenly
like universal pay and stuff.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, it's a big topic. We could just talk for another hour and a half about that. We're just not do that now. But I'm wondering maybe a more kind of positive and hopeful view for what the hell this crazy AI is going to do to society is suddenly you can do art, but you don't have to draw art for the clothes of that video game, which I'm sure you love. But I guess at some point you're going to be like, well, now I want to do spaceships with pink flowers and zebras and whatever. And I do not care if anybody's going to buy it or not. I'm doing it for me because I have my universal pay. Shit, the more I think about this AI stuff, the more I realize
you see that it's bad?
I see that it's bad unless it could be either really fucking amazing. If we get to that system where we don't need to work anymore, AI takes care of everything and we just have fun, kind of. We just let our creativity do whatever, But that's the thing, right? Because it's taking away the creativity now. That was the one thing that we were like, people are the only things that could create art. But that's because you have constraints. So because right now AI in your case is taking away constraints. I mean, not in your case, in your industry case. Like, okay, this human being has a constraint. It wants money and it takes time. Let's take that away. I'm gonna use AI. Okay, and then you're like, shit, I'm out of job. But if actually we get to a society where you don't have these constraints either, so you can do whatever you want, you don't need to care about who's going to buy this because you have already a universal basic income, and you paint just for the sake of painting because you love the art, and you don't need to listen to whatever, like, I know I've heard from my new research that 14 years old really like strawberry red, whatever, and you can do whatever the hell you want. Then that's more a hopeful way. What I'm trying to say is I can see two different outcomes. An amazing one where we free ourselves from whatever and we actually free to experience whatever we want. And that's very crazy and up in the air, and we can get that just if you get something that looks like universal basic income. Or the other end of the spectrum is life is shit. Society gets completely fucked mentally. Like our minds are just gonna become numb, served by this AI thing that gives us all the content that we want from Instagram, TikTok, etc. All the art that we want from Midjourney and stuff, and all the artists, amazing artists that were doing all this crazy art are switching job, and they're gonna be doing, I don't know, front-end programming.
Yeah.
Yeah, worse probably if you do front-end programming. Okay. Damn, this is hard. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that we need to have these conversations. Like, I think that's a good way of.
And we need to have these conversations with people in power, politicians, very fast. Because that's what has been fucking up a bunch of systems the last many years. Because I think like we need, like, politicians need to know about this kind of stuff. And a lot of politicians are like not super young, so they might not know what all this stuff even means. But it is something that needs to be regulated somehow. It might be fine, but it just needs to be a conscious decision by the people, like the people actually make, instead of just like, I don't know, 5 people who are like, hey man, we can make this program, that's pretty rad. Let's have like a personal one where we can make the furry porn. Basically, okay, so what the conclusion to all of this is, if you want a happy ending to the pun intended, happy ending to this is, as it stands now, full circle, bow, everything, happy ending is, I can always get a job as a porn artist. I can still do furry porn, and I am available. Actually, just hit me up. I can do that. So that means that all the very good concept artists will be doing porn.
Because AI cannot do porn today.
Yet. Yes.
Damn.
Think about it.
That will not be a bad world to live in.
Where like the best and most creative art. Let's face it, that's how the world has been forever. Yep. So the savior of all artists is porn. Once again. But I'm so happy we had this conversation. Yeah.
I think it was super helpful. I learned a lot. And I think we need to have, when I said we need to have more of these conversations, I mean, I'm an AI guy and I talk to a lot of AI guys, unfortunately. I gotta talk to art people. I gotta talk to, designers, which is, as far as I understand, different from art. But I gotta talk to all the other kind of people that are actually probably, without the probably, are gonna be the ones more impacted by this, and their opinion is gonna help everybody else shape. We're all in this together, I guess, at some point, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem.
High score. I love the hat.